chair of the National Alumni Development Committee. Been involved on the volunteer levels for, I guess, literally at this point, my entire adult life, having served as a regional vice president, district director, PVP, National Professional Development Chair, and now here on the Alumni Development, or National Alumni Development Chair. Also very active in school. I was chapter president, chapter historian, VP of Pledge Education. And my last position as a collegiate was probably my favorite. And that was, Vice President of Alumni Relations for my chapter of initiation, Lambda Tau, down at Bentley University outside of Boston. I liked being in the VPAR position so much that literally 2 days after graduation, I joined the Boston Alumni chapter and then went on to serve as their secretary at the time. This was way back in 2003. I guess it technically would have been a precursor to some of the VPCR roles. So, alumni, specifically the relationship between alumni chapters and collegiate chapters have always been something that has interested me. I'm really glad we had this opportunity tonight to really gather for what is going to be what I hope is really the initial phase of collaboration here between the alumni chapters and VP of Collegiate Relations. I really do think, kind of the COVID world here has given us a unique opportunity. We're seeing virtual happy hours, and we're seeing just so many folks come out of the window to interact with the fraternity. That I think there's been no better time for these two groups, the VPARs and the VPCRs, to work together. So really our goal tonight is to center this conversation, or for the next hour, around 5 main topics. One is communication. The second is really around re-engaging both lost chapter and local alumni. Third, utilizing or figuring out the best way to utilize the networks that we have for career mentor advice. And that goes both ways, both from the chapter perspective as well as alumni chapter perspective. Planning joint events. And they're really something I'm excited about, is trying to engage our VPARs a bit more, at least our collegians a bit more, to help both the national fraternity as well as our alumni chapters really guide seniors into alumni life. And we'll finish up today with a few quick updates from the National Alumni Development Committee on some initiatives that we're running that we'd love to get some help and advice on from folks on the line. A couple of quick logistics for tonight. So this is really meant to be discussion focused. Now you're getting a preview of all my slides. It really is meant to be discussion focused. My goal is actually not to talk that much. And basically what we'll do is, each topic will have a few questions that we'll try to kick off. I'll provide some kind of thoughts of what I've seen from a best practice standpoint, both from when I was VPAR in college and when I've served in collegiate relation type roles at the alumni chapter, as well as for my day job, which is marketing for B2B software companies. And then once we're past that, what we're going to do is open it up for conversation. And to get on the conversation line, simply just raise your hand, and then I'll call your name, and you can unmute yourself to talk. And really the goal here as well is, we want that open communication. So, certainly, raise your hand often, and certainly have your opinions heard. And then the other piece as well is, just before you speak, make sure you introduce yourself, your name, your home chapter, or what chapter you're representing, as well as any current positions. And as you can tell from behind me, it's bedtime, so I want a dual screen. Modern life, I guess. Anyways, so our first topic is really around communication. And really what we want to focus here on is, how can we actually best engage both of our audiences in this world where there are no leads. Initiation season will probably be completely different, unlike anything we've seen before. So really not only how do we start doing it, but how do we do it consistently? What is the best way to do it? And then what are the best channels to do it? Is it email? Is it social? Is it the good old fashioned phone? As far as kind of what I've seen in previous lives, I think certainly from a how can we interact standpoint, it's usually as simple as just asking for help, or making that first effort to say, hey, we really want to work with you guys to make sure that, you guys know not only all of our events, but that you're also in with us in this process to help engage our audience groups, in this case, both alumni. In terms of frequencies, I'm in good old B2B marketing, so I believe in hit them often and hit them hard. That's just a joke, but I do believe it is important to have consistent communication. What I've seen well, or what worked well in the past for me in both the volunteer roles as a professional world, is at least some sort of monthly communication, whether it's a newsletter, and a lot of the chapters out there I've seen just from my roles as as RVP and PVP are doing this. Or it could be as often as weekly highlights of, hey, we just got done with our chapter meeting. Here are some of the key points that we want to share out to the alumni base. I found this tactic actually worked really well when I was VPAR. It was actually our 15th anniversary semester, and our year. And what I literally did was send out weekly meeting notes out to our alumni database. For a couple of reasons. I think it was one, that we hadn't necessarily engaged a bit. And then two, obviously we wanted to make sure we got folks to that banquet. Engagement was great. We had a large number of alumni not only attend the banquet, but they stayed with us. They came to speak for professional events. They came to speak at networking fairs. So, it works. And then the final point in terms of channels, obviously, the social media networks and the email habits that collegians are using are probably different than what alumni are using. Heck, they're probably different among the alumni level as well. So really, it's just a matter of, I don't necessarily believe you could ever over communicate across too many channels. So certainly, feel free, and certainly budget time as you're doing your communication, so really to use those channels, to use email, to use your social media network. So it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, which I think is a forgotten one in this area, to be able to really make sure you're interacting and communicating with alumni and collegians in any possible way that they're consuming information. Even the good old-fashioned phone works sometimes. So that's kind of my my couple of cents here. Love to hear what everyone else thinks, about all this. Some other tips in terms of, VPARs. What is the best way to kind of communicate with your members, and vice versa? And how can we open those lines of communication? And I should mention, I'll just start calling out names too if people don't start raising their hand. All right, so we'll go with, all right, I'll popcorn the first person here. So, and I'll just go with the first person I see in the list, Annika Strand. Any thoughts on this or any suggestions?
So I actually at our chapter just started the monthly newsletter, which I think was helpful for alumni to see and look at, to be updated with what our chapter's events are going to be upcoming, and recapping our previous events over the summer, and like links that are important for them to get involved in. And we were going to try to host still some Zoom events, and host hopefully a couple of our alumni to talk to our chapter still over like Zoom, so still have that virtually. And also I think getting more our information to them out more quickly it's good to use social media. Like we just started our LinkedIn, which I think is helpful for the alumni, like you mentioned. And a lot of our alumni are active on Facebook, and we've also started on our Instagram highlighting a lot more things that our chapter are doing, and like specifically calling out to alumni if it's something that they should pay attention to. So I think all of those things are good, at least it seems to be working for us so far, but I think it'd be helpful to hear from some alumni too, to see what they think are the best for them in terms of looking and staying up to date with information. But that's kind of what we've been doing.
That's great. And thank you, by the way, for very, very greatly honoring my popcorn here. That was an awesome feedback, and I love the LinkedIn part. Love the kind of, I think it's an untapped gem here. And actually, ironically, the Boston Alumni Chapter did a similar basically a recruiter panel, and both myself and our chapter president posted about it on LinkedIn, and it was probably one of the more liked LinkedIn messages that I've certainly seen from myself personally, and hers as well. I'm still seeing comments of on those posts, so that's awesome that you are your chapter is doing that and you're doing that. So kudos. I saw Mary Miracle on the line. I think she's obviously a very experienced alumni chapter officer and someone obviously from a sales and marketing realm. So love that, Mary, if you don't mind, I'll put you on the spot, but love to get your insights there, kind of piggybacking off Annika a bit in terms of what you've seen work in terms of how collegians could engage the alumni or speak with the alumni and vice versa. Oh, her microphone's not working. She lucked out. How about Jim Gerhardt?
Okay, do you hear me?
Perfectly. Thanks, Jim.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just had to unmute myself there. Well, I as far as communication and whatnot, one of the things that I learned, at least going back to the, my days in Chicago, is that it's always important that from the alumni chapter perspective that you have various people within the executive committee of the alumni chapter that actually go out to the individual chapters to meet them and get a chance to know them. Part of the reason why I'm involved in the fraternity as much as I have been is because some of the alumni took the steps of coming down to our chapter, meeting us, getting a chance to know us, and inviting us to the events while we're still collegians and at the time. So therefore, when it came time that we graduated, we weren't going to an alumni function for the first time and absolutely knowing nobody. We'd rather we would know, certainly a handful of people, maybe more than that, depending on how many events we actually came to. So there's a lot of give and take while I was still in school, working with the chapters. Now, granted, some areas of the country may be easier than others. And depending on school schedules or whatnot, sometimes it's easier said than done. So, certainly what we're doing in Cincinnati, we've tried over a number of years to, various degree of success, is trying to get involved with the local chapters and get involved with some of their activities and encourage them to invite us to various things that they would feel appropriate, so we get a chance to know them before they graduate. So when it comes time for they graduate, certainly if they're in the Cincinnati area, they would know people already in the alumni chapter, and I find that to be very helpful. Yeah. Of course, one of the challenges here in Cincinnati is a lot of people are coming in from out of town and they're leaving town after graduation. So hopefully the people that we built the relationships with here, when they go elsewhere, if we gave them good direction on some good habits, and hopefully to join various alumni chapters elsewhere, even though they weren't able to fully benefit us here. Yeah. The other thing is that we do run a big event that we try to get a larger group of people. And now we've been fortunate to be able to utilize the central office for the last couple of years for our open house. I think we've had the largest crowd we had is like 128 or something, where we've had a number of alums that presented within the central office building, various rooms, and we got a chance to show people, stuff about their chapter, so on and so forth. This year we're going to wind up doing it visually, virtually, but we'll see how that works out. So that was just a quick plug for that.
Awesome, thanks, Jim. And I totally agree with the be seen aspect of it as well. I think that's so helpful to kind of create that engagement. I know one reason why I joined the Boston Alumni Chapter so quickly after graduation, I'm sure maybe Dan might even have the same thing, but those folks were literally, they were there, they were at those events, they were always kind of reaching out to us and for joint events. They were heavy in helping us plan our anniversary celebration, so it just made a natural transition to
the big thing is to get the invitation. That's really key. If we can find out when things are, and obviously not the night before, that's usually not as good. Yeah. But if we get a decent amount of notice, then we can publicize it in our newsletter. We use a monthly newsletter. I'm sure other chapters, do similar things or something slightly different. But if we have the opportunity to find out ahead of time, then the chances of showing up are going to be enhanced.
Yep. No, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. How about let's get another collegiate on here. Emmer, we'll keep it in Cincinnati. Horseboro?
Yes, can you hear me?
Perfectly, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, some of the ways that I'm planning to get alumni involved this year. I actually want to start an alumni mentorship program through Cincinnati's chapter, and I'm still working out some of the plans for that, and I actually am planning to send out a newsletter this week to our alumni to introduce my ideas for the program and get them involved. I want to use this as an opportunity to get our current members more involved with our alumni and to build those connections and network with them to hopefully help advance them in their careers further down the road when they come to graduate.
That is awesome, and I love that. I love the idea. I love how you're trying to not only kind of establish that connection now, but also establish it down the road. That's awesome, and it's ironic. One of the things actually we're going to be talking about at the end of the session is actually an initiative we're trying to pilot or test from the National Alumni Development Committee, literally around mentorship and somewhat organization of member information. So I'll pop in a bit more at the end of that, but love to hear how your program's going, or even see if you might be able to are interested in helping out there. So that's awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Perfect. Let's see. So I think I saw North Hollywood alumni on here. Is that right?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. Great. Any take on kind of how the collegians can certainly help the communication between the alumni and the chapter, and frequency and all that good stuff?
I appreciate the ideas shared so far. There's been definitely some good ones, so I'm taking copious notes.
Perfect.
One thing that one of our local chapters is doing is that actually is still allowed, believe it or not, in California at the moment, is a golf tournament. So they are working with our alumni chapter and some of the others in the area just to plan a completely, obviously, outdoor event with alumni to do like a mixer that way, other than the traditional things. Like we have an alumni panel tonight where some of our alumni chapter brothers are going to speak at a local chapter during their recruiting event. And then tomorrow night, we're also actually with the same chapter doing a bingo night.
Nice. So you're making it fun. You're kind of combining the town and gown there, so to speak, with the professional and the social aspect of it. That's awesome.
Yep, and the bingo night is also a community service fundraiser because they're charging $5 per bingo card, and then all of that is being donated to the Ronald McDonald Charities.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little combo. That's
perfect. That's awesome. It's great to hear too that like you've been able to be so active and engaging the collegians to do that, and helps them as well too. So there's literally two events that get clicked off from a CS point of view and professional event point of view. So that's great. I'm in marketing, and we love to get as much out of assets and combine as many things as possible. So that's awesome to see. Thank you. Lindsay, sorry about that. Looks like you had a comment here as well.
No problem. Yeah, I just wanted to say that Jim touched on this at the very end, but as far as communication between collegiate chapters to alumni chapters, the more time you give, the better, because a lot of us have families or jobs, etc., and so we may need to ask off work or find babysitters or whatever. So if you could give a month or two notice on your upcoming events, that would help us be more able to attend. So just want to point that out as well.
No, it's a perfect point. There's so many that I hear about the week. I'm like, oh, I can't. Perfect. And then CJ Cook, looked like you had a hand raised as well.
Yeah, my comment was actually along the same lines. Like I'm a DD, and one thing that I've seen work to some degree successful chapters is even if you, I mean, obviously monthly like newsletters would probably be best, but if you could at least try to have one like at the very beginning of the semester, so you get give us like as much notice as possible for like everything, you know, at least tentative dates throughout the whole semester, and then hopefully something like about midway through. That way you can like hit us again with what's left in the semester and maybe an idea of what'll start up in the following semester. That way you at least get a couple touch points and you give us a lot of time in advance to see what's coming up and try to plan accordingly.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And then, yeah, certainly, you know, after that initial touch is made, you know, certainly keep up on the social channels and, hey, we have an event coming up this week, or hey, here's what's coming up when, you know, certainly always helps, but obviously the more, the better. It's, you know, I actually promote webinars for work and I often find that it usually takes about the third time to get a big amount of registrations there. So it's definitely a lot of touches. Thank you, CJ and Lindsay. Sarah Barry.
Hi, I'm the VPCR for Atlanta. This is to everyone. Check your emails. As a collegian, I was told email the alumni chapters. They want to come to your stuff and then wouldn't get a response. As a VPCR, I am emailing collegians and not getting responses. So make sure that you're checking that. If you have a VPCR@gmail email, make sure that everyone has that and you're passing these down as well. I've spent the past months just trying to get those emails from the chapters so that we can have a good line of communication. So make sure that you have correct emails, make sure you're checking them, and make sure that you're passing them down. It helps a lot because we do want to be involved with you and we do want to see you.
Perfect. Oh, that's a great point. Perfect. And then from a channels perspective, so from a social media perspective, I mean, what are some of the best ways to any kind of comments in terms of, you know, where your membership, obviously we've talked about Facebook, heard that is certainly a big one for members, but anything specifically from the collegiate side as well that, you know, alumni chapters should be thinking about using to communicate with the chapters and maybe as you're talking about, you know, warming up some graduating seniors. Karen Lee, do you have any thoughts on that one or the topic in general?
My chapter has been using Slack a lot, but I also have noticed a huge trend in our area of using Discord. It's more of it's kind of like more people use it for gaming purposes because it's easy to communicate with one another. But a lot of my members have noticed that other chapters are making Discord servers to talk amongst one another and like share ideas and bounce them off each other. So I think that's a great way for people to get more involved.
That is awesome. That's a good point. That's even one I've never heard of. So are you can chapters in essence invite folks into these you know, Discord servers, or obviously Slack? Yeah. It's an invitation thing as well.
Usually you just have a link. Like my school, somebody created one for my entire school. We have one for our chapter where it's kind of just like a casual one versus our more serious is like on Slack. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Perfect. Great. Well, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, I'm finally using Slack. We've used all kind of different type of tools in work for that purposes. So first time on it, although I use Fuse for years, so I don't know, and Teams. So I'm trying to remember all the acronyms. That was awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Any other points? So yeah, let's see. Any other collegians here? Danielle Shepard, any thoughts?
Can you guys hear me?
Faintly, but yes.
Okay, sorry. My microphone's a little bit not great on my computer.
That's okay.
But yeah, we use like for the current brothers in the chapter, we use GroupMe mainly to communicate with each other. But I know that like our Instagram has been like kind of blowing up, and we've been using that a lot to get out to like new brothers and everything. In terms of interacting with the alumni, we honestly like don't have any formal communications other than like a Facebook group, a LinkedIn group we just started, like a private one and a public one. And that's pretty much it. I think the alumni, like from our chapter, have their own like GroupMes and different things that they use, but we're not like in contact with that. Like we're not in that. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of hard to get their contact information, if that makes sense. With a lot of alumni, that's definitely something that I've been trying to start kind of from square one, getting people's contact information to reach out to them, because we have like lists of our alumni and everything from our chapter, but no way to actually reach out to them. So yeah, I did start, I think someone had said earlier about like a mentor program that they wanted to start. I actually did start one last semester for our chapter, and that's gone really well. So I definitely think it's a good idea to do that. Yeah, and that's kind of the first way that I started getting people's like phone numbers and email addresses, and then I connected with them on LinkedIn to kind of like set it all up. So yeah, and then I've been able to put that together and put that as a resource to the other brothers, like in a directory kind of thing. So I think that's also really good, but again, not like a formal way to communicate with a lot of the alumni at once, other than the Facebook group.
Yeah, which is still good. I mean, it looks like you had, I love the idea of being able to use that mentor program as a way not only give value to both groups, obviously the collegians getting the advice, but also the alumni to be able to offer the advice and give back, but also as a way to kind of use that as an avenue to, update your contact database and information. So I think, I think in the end, it's probably going to end up bearing a lot of fruit for you. So that's great. You're able to, get that up and running. And I also took your name down for the pilot program. So thank you for volunteering. You're welcome. Hey, anytime. I think that's how all my RVPs ended up getting their jobs. They mentioned something and put them right in. Perfect. Oh, great. Well, you actually brought up a great second point here around really engaging our lost alumni. And what we're trying to do here is skip a lot of slides. What we're really trying to do here is, you can tell it's a Thursday, really look beyond our own chapters, our own home chapters, but also if look at our local chapter alumni as well. Again, this is another point of really an opportunity for VPARs and VPCRs to really put their heads together and think about, all right, well, who are these folks that we have lost contact with? Who are our chapter alumni that are engaged? Who are our local alumni who used to be really engaged? And really think about, hey, do you have their information? Have they been responsive to you as a way to kind of update information? And I think really what is a great point here, and I think the mentor programs are a great way to do this, really is a way to engage alumni that might be in your area. So for example, if you're in Boston, you might now have an opportunity to engage alumni from Chicago or things like that. But then more importantly, I think that also gives other alumni chapters the opportunity to do, as Jim said, basically, be able to get new members as people are graduating out. So it might be a far-fetched road, but in theory, you should be able to get there from that. But, I'd love to hear people's ideas of really how we could, one, find some contact information, and then to re-engage some lost alumni. So I think we'll start here from the collegiate standpoint. Let's see, how about Elizabeth Hyde from Rho Epsilon at Pepperdine, which is a newer chapter. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was hoping actually that you'd call on me.
Oh, good. I knew it.
Perfect. Because we just had our recruitment week this last week, totally virtually, and it ended up being really successful, especially our alumni panel, because we ended up having like we reached out to like a couple alumni, and then they just kind of like kept coming. You know, the Long Beach chapter reached out, and just like a couple other places. And so, you know, we started with like 5 on the panel, and now we ended up with like 10 or 11, I think, which maybe that's small compared to some other chapters. I don't know.
So good.
But the key thing is I was following up with one of them, and because like he was one that like, so let me backtrack that a second. So what I've really been encouraging like my VP-AR and my VP-Rs to do has been to like try to connect the most with the alumni that we've never heard from, you know, because we had at this panel like some alumni who are kind of like the legends, like everyone knows their name, and some who are recently graduated. But I really like personally, and for my VPR, have been having us try and find, you know, just like pick a name on our like our long alumni report that we downloaded from the hub, and be like, okay, like try and bug this person, you know, see you know, if they're at all interested. Because when this alumni specifically that I was talking about with today, he said, he was like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love like getting to hear, like seeing some of these like alumni that I haven't talked to in years. And it really just like, especially since it was today, like further solidified it for me, just like how, like even that one little reminder of DSP is sometimes enough to get them to like re-engage. And he's like, yeah, like I'll come to all the rest of the events. So I don't know if exactly there was any like specific takeaways in that, besides just like try to find those alumni for collegiate chapters like that you haven't talked to in a while. If you have anything for them, just like, especially LinkedIn, like you can message people, like connect with them. So yeah, hopefully that was somewhat helpful.
No, that was exactly the point of the question too. So I'm glad that I just had a feeling when I saw your name. But I mean, that's a great point too. I love your point about you looking through and going through that alumni, or the alumni roster that you have, you pulling it out from the hub or wherever you might have it locally as well, and really trying to understand, you know, not only who those folks are lost, but then what are the best ways to engage them, and what's the best value that you could give them. So that was a wonderful strategy of what you did, and a wonderful way of empowering and challenging your officers to think creatively and do some good. So that is awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jen, how about you? From I know you are certainly trying to, you know, help out and or at least have firsthand look of getting the Hartford alumni chapter up and running. Any advice here? What are some of the things you did to help find kind of some lost alumni?
Yeah, I mean, I wear multiple hats. I'm also the New England RVP, and they kind of, the role of the RVP, the regional vice president, kind of plays well with the VP collegiate relations role, because I do talk to collegiates regularly. One of the best strategies that I've seen so far is collaborating with the school where you can. So last year, this wasn't when I was a VPCR, but I noticed that like the chapter partnered with the university, a chapter partnered with their university during their like 100-year celebration. And they said, hey, Delta Sigma Pi alumni who have gone to this school, like there's gonna be a meetup. And this is a chapter that was reactivated. So like there's the like generation of alumni who were numbers 1 through like 700. And then the new generation that was restarted in like 2013 of like numbers 700 through 1,000 now. So a lot of the alumni that like have not been engaged with the fraternity in a long time saw that in the program for the centennial event and just showed up. And I guess we'll call new generation and old generation of the chapter like got to meet each other. Like we got to meet the chapter president in 1965, and that was kind of a cool way to like re-engage them. I did call out the chapter saying like, you guys should have taken down their emails and contact information. But like if you can partner with your university on any like big events that are going on that already have a whole office that engage alumni, that might be a good place to start. And creating some kind of alumni database to like capture all that information, like where they are, especially because like we have the records. I think if you can email records@dsp.org to get like your entire chapter roster, you can see who's considered lost and who's considered like a good address to get contact, and maybe like use that as a baseline of like, okay, which contacts have you updated from there?
Those are great points. And I forgot to mention Jen is my RVP too. So thank you. Thank you, Jen. But that's actually a great.
Yeah, we can work together on it as a region.
And there we go. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't volunteer. Well, I guess I am now because I'm VPCR for the Boston Alumni chapter. So glad to help you out and work with you. But that was a great point that you made about the working with your school on that. I've heard other chapters do that as well. In one chapter, it actually was looking to engage lost alumni and was holding a career fair. And they physically met with not only the alumni relations department, but also the career services department. And they were actually able to, one, get funding for that, as well as get promotional material for that. And again, and also update the database. So great point there, Jen, of putting it up there. Another point too, as we talk about kind of engaging lost alumni and looking at lists, is certainly LinkedIn, I think, is a pretty good tool to use as well. Obviously, there's ways you could literally go in and search for people's interests in alma mater to kind of see who from, I use Bentley because it's mine, also has Delta Sigma Pi listed as groups, and certainly find out what they're doing in their jobs and in their career, and use that as a way to to outreach with folks, or kind of see are there some specific questions we could ask or specific ways we could ask folks for help. Danielle, oh thank you, you're saving me. Danielle Shepard.
So a question that I definitely have for a lot of the alumni on the call are like, what is the balance between bothering people and just like asking them to see if they'd be interested in participating, but encouraging them to participate? Because I don't know, sometimes like if it's one message over LinkedIn, I feel like that's totally fine, and if they don't answer, that's fine too. I'm not going to keep bugging them, but what's kind of the balance? Because obviously I want people to be engaged, but I don't want to just keep spamming them and them not have any interest,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And actually, I never say no, so I'm probably not the best person to answer this, but how about someone from CJ? Perfect. CJ Cook from Atlanta.
Yeah, I think kind of rule of thumb, going back to like our last section of, I would just have like that month, I don't know what cadence you're on, but I would stick with that same cadence and have, whatever distribution lists or, however you're reaching out to them, just on a cadence. And the people that respond, you like converse with them more, but I wouldn't remove anyone unless someone like asks to be removed, get out of the loop. I would kind of keep them in and just stay on your own chapter's cadence the entire time. Mm-hmm. That way you're not isolating someone out and pegging them until they're joining in or whatnot, but you're still in constant contact with the entire group.
That's a wonderful point, CJ. And some of that too will also happen organically. So they might not be answering your questions or not be responding to you, but they might, if their friend or the person they graduated with is helping the chapter out at a career panel, and the friend asks that's been engaged with you, you probably have a better shot at getting the answer from that person that you do with there. So I think that the theme of, and CJ hit the point in the head, I think the theme of making sure that you're keeping those who are engaged is a great point, and some of it'll kind of happen by osmosis to get other folks going. But as long as, and the big point there, I think the other key point that CJ brought up was the consistency factor. So, if there's that cadence, they might not be answering you because there might have been something of they saw the email, but literally they had, that quarter that was maybe tax season, or maybe their company was going through a merger, or they're in some kind of integration, or just life happens and they just were not able to interact. But, maybe 2-3 semesters down the road or 2-3 newsletters down the road, something opens up, there's an event where they see they could help and add value, and they'll add value. So I do agree there is that gentle balance of not wanting to over communicate, over pester, but then there's also the keeping the rhythm, keeping the cadence, so it doesn't feel like you're hounding at points. And then certainly, utilize your engaged folks to help you kind of recruit other folks. And You know, sometimes I think as you're making asks too as well, you know, make sure whatever those asks are very specific, that you're giving enough time if you're looking for like a mentor panel or mentor group, which it sounds like you nailed, or a career panel, and then be very specific in what value you think they could add. So if it's a panel about, you know, job searching changes and you notice that this lost alumni has a startup background, then use that as a way. And notice that you work in startups. I notice that you seem to be there at these companies a year to 2 years, but that you seem to get increasing responsibility. So then it takes a little bit more time to make the ask, but then it shows that, you know, you understand what value they could bring. They understand that you understand. And I think it kind of helps make that reach out a bit better. But those are great points.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, thank you. Perfect. And yeah, I do. Megan Hill is completely right as well. Those radius reports are perfect from central office to be able to, you know, engage nearby alumni that certainly aren't from your home chapter. I used to love looking at those things. And I think it also gets the point as well of, you know, it's not, you know, while certainly you have especially affinity for your home chapter, this is something that is bigger than just your school. So certainly take advantage of that and help your, you know, collegiate brothers take advantage of that as well. Which actually I think gets us to the next point beautifully. Oh, we better go quick on this next point. So basically here, we'll go back to my previous point. What is the best advice from alumni perspective for collegians to actually reach out to you guys for, you know, networking advice and career advice? I guess Danielle, I'll go back to you and Emily, who also set up the mentor program as well. Like, what were the best ways that you found to get people to actually serve in those committees or on those programs and want to be able to offer advice?
I mean, for me personally, I pretty much solely went through LinkedIn. Our chat, I don't know how big like everyone's chapter is on the call, but I did it as like a voluntary program for the current brothers. So I wasn't like making anybody be in the program if they didn't have any interest, because I figured if I'm making everyone do it and they don't want to participate, that's not going to be helpful for anyone, especially the alumni that won't have contact with the current brother. So I just went through LinkedIn and I ended up getting a really like good amount of feedback. And last semester when I started it, I actually had more mentors than people wanted like to be mentored, if that makes sense. So I kind of just stopped there because I could have went through our Facebook group and the LinkedIn group, but obviously that would have just been more alumni that didn't have mentees. So yeah, I just went through LinkedIn and just message them on LinkedIn pretty much.
Yeah. Perfect. Emily or anyone else, anything to add on to that piece?
So I haven't like initiated the program quite yet. That was one of my goals starting this fall, was to get that started. And I planned the way reaching out is including it in the alumni newsletter through the email. However, I have noticed we are missing quite a few contacts and updated emails. So I'm definitely going to take your advice, Danielle, and go through LinkedIn, I think, and reach out to more. That way I can get some other alumni involved from different backgrounds.
Perfect. Great. And yeah, I think also here, another way kind of look at that as well is, you know, looking for some of those small wins. So, you know, working with the alumni chapters and your local alumni to do things like either structured resume workshops or one-to-one resume reviews or mock interviews, or even just do those one-off advice sessions. I think would certainly work as well. Sometimes the small asks can certainly lead to some bigger things as well. Perfect. Well, good. Well, I notice Heather's comment from 15 minutes ago that I should speed up the conversations. You know how my wife feels that I don't listen. Perfect. Well, great. Well, let's go on to a quick one really around planning joint events. And I think we've heard a couple of times here, I don't know what's going on here, of chapters, you know, literally just reaching out. You know, North Hollywood talked about the bingo night, which was not only a social event, but also, you know, a community service event. They talked about the interview, the alumni panel as well. But what are some other ways we could kind of team to help each other more from a, you know, obviously we have those easy professional events, but what about some community service events and social activities? What are some best ways or avenues we could look to collaborate on that?
This is Lindsay Dilger
Hey,
at
Lindsay.
CAC.
Yep.
I have an idea, but then I have a question for the group too.
Go ahead.
Virtual 5K. So you could kind of run on your own and then post pictures, and then it kind of motivates people to do, you know, to get out and get moving. It's something fun. And then my question is though, like I'm zoomed out, you know, because you work from home every day on Zoom, emails and all that, meetings, etc. And probably a lot of the collegiates are as well. So I'm looking for ideas on other things you can do to either make Zoom meetings more fun, exciting, engaging, or things like the virtual 5K where it is, you know, out and about, if you will. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, I guess?
Question.
Or Paul, from you too, yeah.
I do, yeah. My wife is actually doing a virtual 5K, which I'm jealous of. But, you know, I think certainly I love the virtual 5K idea, and I agree. I think we're definitely getting to a point where there is Zoom fatigue. Like I'm tired of looking at my face every day. But I think what I've seen some chapters do, you know, certainly there was a Hawaii night that I saw some chapters are doing, which I think is fun and something different. I think you can even do some things, you know, there's all kinds of virtual escape rooms, which I've done. I'm sure there's probably also virtual, maybe casino nights or things like that you could do to kind of spice it up. And I think probably over the summer, but still it sounds like there are some, you know, outdoor activities, you know, if there's a way to do some very socially distant outdoor activities that comply with local regulations, I'd certainly say, certainly shoot to give those a try where you can. I think is fun. I mean, you can even do it somewhat of the old-fashioned way, like pre-COVID. Watch parties were starting to become a thing, and they probably were more of a thing. So that might even be something that's that might be fun to do. Maybe it's a you know, in Boston they have a startup week, and the alumni chapter is registering, and we're doing kind of like a book club off of that. But maybe it's a watch party off of that, which might be something new and different. But I know it does get difficult, especially when it sometimes just want to be a wallflower type of thing. But I'm open to other thoughts as well. Perfect. Well, feel free to enter those in the chat or kind of bring them on through. Perfect. Well, great. And I think the last point here, you know, we'll go very quickly around this, but certainly graduating you know, well, we always have that as well. But engaging kind of graduating seniors, I think a big thing that we could certainly do together, and we were actually talking about this a little bit, is for VPARs really to help and serve as a resource to start getting our graduating seniors excited for alumni life. And certainly there are a couple of ways to do that. I think Jim had mentioned, you know, the alumni chapter, you know, certainly showing up at these chapter meetings and making sure that they're known is certainly a good way to help. But I think certainly those programs like the mentor programs are a great way to do it. But in terms of VPARs who have actually done the done some sort of you know, the new alumni orientations or things like that, any best practice advice out there? How about
The Chicago, this is Lindsay
Oh,
again, the
perfect, thank you.
Chicago Alumni Chapter has 1 to 2 members go to each collegiate chapter. There's 10, I think, in our region. Yeah, region. And present a collegiate versus alumni life, because I think that that's kind of one of the disconnects, because you know, when you become an alumni, you most likely get a job, you most likely, you know, it's kind of the real world. And so adapting to that is already difficult. And then, oh gosh, we have to meet every week. And no, that's not the case, right? Alumni chapters have different rules, different cadences, etc. So explaining that aspect to them is super helpful. The other thing that we point out is, hey, you may not be, I mean, I graduated from University of Missouri and now I'm in Chicago, right? You may not end up where you went to college. So when you go to your new destination, make sure to reach out, because there are alumni there that can help you navigate along the way. But I would definitely also echo Jim's point, is get to know those people as a collegiate. So really they have no choice but to join the alumni chapter, right? Because once you build those bonds, I think that really, really helps solidify what an alumni chapter is and means, and will help you have great success.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. I completely agree. That's funny. I'll go down Paul Lane. Then we'll move on. But as you were making that comment about, you know, being from Missouri and serving in the Chicago alumni, you know, of the officers on the Boston alumni, you know, our president is actually from Rochester, you know, RIT, so in Rochester, so 8 hours away. We have a media director who's from Penn State, so the same thing, because they kind of had those relationships from other areas, were apt to kind of join the alumni chapter. Perfect. Well, hey, we're just about at the top of the hour here, so let's see if I can slowly do this. But you know, this was some great conversation. I think it was so great to hear from everybody here, and really there were some great ideas that came out of it to hear from, you know, utilizing LinkedIn, not only for LinkedIn groups, but also to engage lost alumni, to starting mentorship programs, to going and kind of establishing those relationships from a collegiate and alumni chapter perspective. So I think there's a lot of great fodder and a lot of great information and tips and tricks that we could, you know, start thinking about, you know, how can we start bringing those to some of our next steps, which gets us to our next steps. So this is actually part 1 of, we're calling this a series, but just more of a coordinated conversations around collegiate and alumni collaboration. The next session, or next kind of meetup for these officially, will be during the last week of the leads. Each province will be having a provincial alumni roundtable, and really what we're encouraging everyone from a National Alumni Development Committee perspective is, let's continue this conversation at these sessions. Let's really use that as an opportunity to start thinking about, you know, what are some big things that we could do from a provincial level to really encourage this collaboration. You know, if we're talking about October, you know, there's still a good amount of time left in this academic year. So what are some big, I should say big, what are some big and small things that we could do to really kind of enhance this collaboration? You know, that really being said, you know, I do encourage, you know, those VPARs and the VPCRs to kind of come and have regular meetings. One thing I'm doing to help Jen out here in New England is actually planning to have, you know, at least a kickoff meeting between myself and the VPARs. One, to kind of get them talking to each other, but also to kind of start us thinking, what are some ways that we could work together, literally for those big and small wins. And we have a couple of initiatives from the Alumni Development Committee that we'd love to get some help on. I teased a couple of them, and I recruited and strong-armed a few folks onto one of these tonight. around our member resource database pilot program. It's just a long name for mentor advice program. And then our graduating senior project. So really, you'll get more information on this in the follow-up email that we'll be sending. But in essence, really this, Heather's laughing because this is morphed so many times, but really the goal of this pilot program is, one, to really go around how can we easily organize a list of individuals who want to help, who want to provide career advice, who want to provide advice on officer positions, who want to just be able to network. So how do we collect that information? How do we organize that information? And then how do we use it? So obviously we heard of a couple, at least 3 good examples of chapters starting to do this. And we're looking to, for a few more chapters to kind of help out with this initiative as well. So obviously we've recruited 3, so there's a few slots open, but if you are interested in helping and learning a bit more about the program, certainly respond to the email, and certainly there'll be some talking points around this during the roundtable sessions at the end of leads, if not before that. The secondary piece here is really around the last topic we discussed tonight, and really around engaging graduating seniors so that they're ready and excited to join alumni chapters. And certainly we've started to map out some ways we could do some emails and nurture streams around this, but we're really looking for some help from the field. So we'd love to have VPRs and VPRs sign up for this. You can call it a task force, but it's a group of people here, I guess, on this project. And really it's all about kind of what are the best ways that we could create emails, landing pages, social media teasers, and revamp the current new alumni orientation presentation, so that it best speaks to these folks and best kind of helps us keep these folks engaged and want to come into alumni life. So more information obviously will come during those roundtables and in the follow-up emails. And we'll probably end up having some kickoff conversations probably prior to lead schools if all goes well. But be on the lookout for information both within the next day or so in our follow-up email and from your provincial chair and during those sessions. So I talked more a bit here, especially at the end I want to, but definitely want to make sure you guys had this information. And really, I appreciate you guys, all of you coming out tonight. Again, the conversation was great. And I also know this is the kickoff to the football season, so appreciate you making those sacrifices. But I'm excited. I mean, I think this is a really great start and a really great momentum here. And I think there are a lot of great ideas. So looking forward to some great things from really this team and this group. So we'll speak in the coming weeks, but again, have a great night, and we will see each other soon. And by the way, big shout out to Heather, who managed some of the some technical issues flawlessly and kept me in line. So thank you, Heather. And good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.